Welcome to Morfanime. I am your fan of more anime, and today we will be diving headfirst into my Part 3 review of the Dressrosa arc of One Piece. Yeah! Part 3, people. This is, I believe, my first Part 3 of anything that I've done on this YouTube channel. And I got to say, I could not continue reading because where I left off at chapter 779, it ended and I felt like it was the perfect place to stop because so much had happened between these 20 chapters. I believe 759 to 779. That is the chapters we will be covering here today in my Part 3 review. And then I will finish Dressrosa, and we will finish this journey that we have set forth together with my fourth part, and hopefully there won't be any more arcs over 100 chapters anytime soon, because I'd like to knock them out a little quicker. I personally think that I'm going pretty fast in this story. I'm really having a good time, taking my time, breathing it in. You know what I mean? Just living in this world, theorizing things that could happen in the future. Like, this world is amazing. The One Piece world is so good. Oh man, I don't even know where to start. This portion of the arc, these 20 chapters, was half backstories, just flashbacks, and then half underling fights, basically. All of Doflamingo's underlings that remained had their fights with the Straw Hats and the people who were competing in that Colosseum. One question is, where the hell is Burgess? The dude loses the flame fruit and then bounces. My only assumption is he got out of town before the birdcage, the overpowered birdcage, was activated. But I would have been kind of cool if Burgess was somewhat involved in the finish here. Like, if after he got screwed by Sabo and he didn't get the devil fruit that Blackbeard wanted him to get, and I'm sure he wanted it pretty bad too. Burgess wants to be a tough man. I mean, he is, I think, Blackbeard's right-hand man. And having the flame fruit would cement that as part of the crew. You know, he's one of the top diggity dogs in Blackbeard's crew, and it felt like he was in this arc, but not enough. Like, they set him up like, oh shit, Burgess is in this, and I know he never really got to fight Luffy, which I was kind of hoping would happen. And then when he fought Sabo, it maybe just because I was reading it, or maybe reading it too fast, it felt like that fight was short and it could have been longer. I would have been happy if Burgess and Sabo had another fight after the tournament, this time involving Sabo's flame fruit abilities. Maybe like a whole chapter of Sabo trying to figure out his flame fruit abilities. Really, Sabo hasn't done a whole lot since he got that flame fruit ability, at least in the manga. So far, he beat Burgess, he got the flame fruit, and then he's kind of been dealing with the Marines and trying to keep people off his back, off of Luffy's back, it seems like. But it would have been kind of cool if he got like a chapter or two, not only for us, the readers, to learn to know the new Sabo, and for Sabo to learn how to use this new devil fruit. I can't imagine you can just be instantly good at using it. It seems like every time we see someone get a devil fruit ability, it takes a while for them to figure it out. And the flame fruit doesn't look like an easy one to learn. You know, like, it seems like something you gotta learn how to be fire. Because he's not like controlling fire or shooting fire. He becomes fire because it's a Logia fruit. So maybe we could have spent a little time with him instead of just saying, oh, I think it's working. I think I got the hang of this. It seems like they could have done more there with his development. My only hope is down the line, or the last 20 chapters of this arc, we will find more for Sabo to do. Zoro had an absolute amazing battle with Pica. This giant rock man who has a high-pitched voice, which I, again, cannot wait to hear in the anime when I get to that point in the anime. It was fantastic. I think Zoro must have used armament hockey, and he put it in his swords, and he was able to cut Pica into multiple sections and until Pica couldn't escape any longer. Basically, Zoro was like, I'm gonna beat you up in the air so you can't escape into the earth. And that was a smart idea. It's really cool that Zoro can now put armament hockey into his swords. What? That's insane. In the membrane, he could already cut through metal and other things that are in his way. Like, he can cut through some crazy shiz. And now he's able to cut through essentially a mountain. That man, Pica, was essentially a living mountain. And he was able to cut it into multiple pieces. Even the guy with the king punch. It's really hard to remember all these side good guys, quote unquote, the ones that are in the Colosseum that are down here helping out the Straw Hats. Like, it's hard. I cannot remember a damn one of their names, really. There's the guy that has the one super punch that he can do like once every hour, is what I got from it. He tells Zoro he can do that. Zoro's like, wait a minute. Well, that guy destroyed the rest of Pika's rubble, so it didn't fall on the city, since he was literally the size of a city. Usopp is still out from dealing with Sugar and everybody else that was, messing with his feels. And he did a lot in the first half of Dressrosa, to be honest. In part 1 and part 2, Usopp was one of the MVPs. He deserves a rest. I got to say, I think this part of the arc had literally my favorite backstory in a long time. Sometimes when they dive into the backstories in One Piece or in any anime, and maybe we're just conditioned to kind of be like, oh my god, we have to go through, chapter after chapter of backstory before I can get the end of this fight, and the fight's going to end up being one chapter. Looking at you, Naruto. But this backstory had me turning the page so fast because I was so excited to learn more about Doflamingo's Celestial Dragon backstory and Law's backstory and the honest-to-God MVP backstory of Senor Pink. I literally almost started to tear up when I saw Senor Pink's backstory. I already liked this character. When his fight with Franky, his first part of the fight with Franky in my last review, I was already thinking, this guy's a cool guy. This guy's hard-boiled. And I like that. He was a cool character. Before we knew his backstory, I was like, I like this guy. I think he's my favorite side underling of Doflamingo's. Like, he was dope. I would love to learn more about Senor Pink's, life. We basically get it all in, 3 or 4 pages. I don't even think it was a whole chapter. It might have been half a chapter. We learn about Senor Pink's wife and son dying while he was away being a pirate, and he lied to his wife and telling her that he wasn't a pirate, and she hates pirates. Actually, the whole story was his kid died of a sickness while Miss Senor Pink was out and about doing shit for Doflamingo, but Senor Pink came back, found out his son was dead. His wife was pissed off at him. She ran out into some stormy weather, and then she got put into a coma. I think she got hit by some rubble or some shit. And then she was in this coma, and the reason Senor Pinks... I did not think that he wore that weird baby outfit for any other reason than just that Oda likes to have weird designed characters with weird powers and weird outfits. He's done that a million times before, but he has never given us a crazy reason for it like this. Like, the reason he wears that goofy outfit is because it was the only thing that made his wife... who was now in the hospital in a vegetated state, smile, was seeing him dressed up as a baby because it reminded her of her dead child, even though she was in a vegetated state. It was sad. It was pretty sad. And Franky and his battle was so good. This is my favorite Franky fight so far. Hands down. Franky hasn't necessarily had a lot of one-on-ones. He's really only been with us since Water 7. I guess his fight with Luffy at Water 7 was pretty good. His fight with that guy in Enies Lobby was pretty good. But really, this fight here with Senor Pink was fantastic. Might be one of my favorite fights in the series. But I now know if I ever do a top 10 Franky fight list, this fight will probably be number 1. It'll be really hard for Oda to top Franky versus Senor Pink for me. Like, that shit was good. And the fact that Senor Pink's Devil Fruit ability is that he can swim through anything is so weird, because it's like Devil Fruit abilities basically mean you can't swim in water. So he's forced to swim in the earth or anything else, grass, earth, stone. Can he swim through people? Like, can he swim through living things? I would assume not. But I love his fighting style too. Like, the diaper bombs was pretty goofy, but the suplexes, the continuous suplexes, he is the Brock Lesnar of this story. Like, he brought Franky to Suplex City all day long, and Franky just kept getting up. And then Senor Pink at the end of the fight was like, all right, I'm gonna hit you with the super suplex, and then if you can get back up, I lose. And Franky's like, all right, fine. Basically, they're being men, and they're not going to dodge the attack. Senor Pink does the super suplex. I don't believe it's called that. And as he's doing it, we get his whole backstory, which was, again, very sad. And then Franky does get back up with one eye exposed, looking like the damn Terminator, looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, looking like the former California governor. Franky gets up and just beats the shit out of Senor Pink. But before he leaves, he says something to the effect of, like, maybe one day we can get a drink together, drink some cola, and you can tell me about your wife and son, or whatever you were talking about while you were suplexing me. But yeah, that was a damn highlight, people. I think I want to get through these fights before I dive into the backstories, because I think the backstories were the top tier moments in this part of the arc, which is surprising. Usually backstories are something I enjoy, but sometimes they can be really long and drawn out. Well, this one was the perfect length, if you ask me, because it kind of felt like Doflamingo and Law's backstory were intertwined, so you didn't have to have two separate ones, which was nice. It was just one thing. It was like 2 chapters, maybe 3 full chapters. But it didn't feel dense at all or hard to get through. I just wanted to know more. Like, I was hungry for information about the celestial dragons. They're so mysterious to me, but I'm starting to understand them. Cabbage, or Candavish, or whatever his name is, and Bartolomeo teamed up against the spiky-haired pop fruit guy that works for Doflamingo, and that was pretty fun to watch. I'm really into Bartolomeo. I don't really understand Cabbage so much, like his whole sleepwalking ability. Is that a devil fruit power? Am I confused? I don't understand it. Is it just like a trait of his? He's just got this more powerful version of himself within himself. He's like a Gemini. He's got a multi-personality thing. But that guy tries to kill Robin, and the pop fruit guy tries to blow up Robin, and Bartolomeo is protected because of his shield, but he's got to make a choice. He's like, I need to save Nico Robin, but I also need to beat this guy. I need to knock him out so his explosion doesn't happen. He does figure out a way. Cabbage ends up saving Nico Robin, even though he's fighting with his other personality at the same time. That whole thing, his double personality thing, just really went over my head. I didn't really understand it. Hopefully Cabbage isn't going to be an important character later on. I don't think he will. Bartolomeo, by the way, comes out like a G and uses like a punch to knock out the pop fruit guy. He puts like his shield around his fist and punches the guy as hard as he can. It looks really similar to Luffy's punches. He even like called it like the barrier pistol, and it was sick. I was so pumped up for Bartolomeo. Like, I am ready for Bartolomeo to join the Straw Hat crew. I would take this guy over Chopper. I would take this guy over Jinbei if he ever joins the crew. I would take this guy over... that's about it so far. I don't know him that well. I couldn't imagine losing anybody else. But Bartolomeo is such a cool character. I didn't think I would like a character that's just a big fan of the Straw Hats, but it's hilarious. I just want him to be Robin's slave. I think that he should get that wish. But they beat their opponent, which is cool. Kyros, Rebecca's father, he ends up beating Demente, whatever, the dude with the ripple fruit, win a really good fight. Even Robin shows up to that fight as well and protects Rebecca. It's very mysterious in the manga. Like, it shows Robin with a bunch of ninja stars in her back because she basically covered Rebecca from being destroyed by these crazy ninja stars that the Demente guy threw up into the air and was about to kill everybody with, and Kyros beat him, which was dope. He slashed through the guy. He just got stronger, beat him up, took names, kicked names, took ass. You know how it goes. It was cool. I was happy they were able to, wrap up that story there. I'm not sure if I'm super into Rebecca's character. Her character design looks cool. Her father, though, his character was dope as hell. The fact that he was able to not only stand on one leg while dealing with this ripple fruit fella, but the fact that he was able to take that guy down with one leg. The fact that he doesn't consider the one leg to be a disadvantage. He sees it as a sign of respect because he cut that leg off to protect his king. I thought that was pretty cool. I'm happy he was able to get the win. There was a weird part when he did finally get the win and he knocked over the Demente ripple fruit guy. He like fell and hit his head on like a stick or something that was sticking out of the ground. Is he dead? Did he kill him? You kind of hope he does, because he's like, I've killed people over and over again. I know One Piece isn't all about the killings, but I do feel like this one was deserved. This guy was a total prick. He killed people. He killed his wife, and while he was a toy, he didn't even get to feel his wife's body's warmth leave her body as she died. It was a whole thing. This guy deserved to die. Luffy beat the shit out of... begrudgingly beat the shit out of Bellamy. Bellamy being one of my favorite characters at this point in the series as well. This guy's had such a great redemption arc here. He's really making a place for him in the story that I never thought was possible. I thought this guy was kind of a one-note bad guy. He kind of had, he's got the English voice actor Raditz. But he is good. He's looking good. He believes in dreams now. I still want to know what's going on with him. And since he went to Skypiea, did he hurt those people? I mean, he took that gold from them. The dude couldn't figure it out, though. Like, even after he was freed from Doflamingo's grip, string fruit ability, he still wanted to fight Luffy. He still wanted to impress Doflamingo, even though Doflamingo doesn't give a shit about him and probably would kill him. Maybe if he brought him Luffy's head, he'd be like, okay, you're in the crew now. My other guys kind of failed today anyway, so you did the thing. But Bellamy ends up losing pretty much in the same way that he did the first time, except he was a little stronger. He did cause some damage to Luffy this time, but I think Luffy was kind of letting him, because Luffy didn't want to hurt him. Luffy sees Bellamy as a friend now. And we also find out that Bellamy has armament hockey, because he punched Luffy and his hand turned black. So I thought that was super dope. The fact that Bellamy's gotten this strong and his spring fruit ability is really growing on me. I think it's cool. I think it's interesting. And I think that he's made the best of it. Law lost a fucking arm to Doflamingo. Oh my god, Law's got his arm cut off. Law and Luffy also, at the beginning of these 20 chapters, hit Doflamingo with a sick tag team move where like Luffy was charging Law, and then Luffy switched Law. Law switched Luffy's place with something, and then Luffy was able to hit the real Doflamingo and not just his string fruit puppet. Speaking of the string fruit puppet, that thing is so overpowered. I mean, I'm still unsure of how many string fruit puppets he can have at once. It seems like one, but man, the fact that he can not only control Bellamy, control the string fruit puppet, and have this damn overpowered birdcage over the entire city at the same time, and his real body can fight. That's insane. This guy is OP. I don't know how Luffy is going to beat him. The last chapter in these 20 chapters ends with Doflamingo saying that Luffy's going to be in for a real surprise when he gets up here and he sees your dead body, Law. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to call it right here, right now. Law is not going to die without us seeing his body. Like, they're not going to do that. I am not at one bit worried about Law. And I'm going to tell you why, to be honest. It mostly comes from his backstory. Let's get into those backstories. They had some good ones. Baby 5 had a little bit of a backstory. We found out her mom and family left her. She was basically useless. She actually ends up getting engaged to one of the guys that was in the fighting Colosseum. That was cute. I actually didn't think I'd give a shit about Baby 5, but now that I seen her mini backstory, I kind of do. That was really cool. The way Oda was able to make these side villains have some character development. You don't usually see that. Even, like, look at Fishman Island. Those side villains meant nothing to me. But these side villains, a lot of them meant a lot to me. I wish we could have learned more about Pica. I feel like he kind of has a crazy backstory that we still don't know about. Would have been interesting to see him, how his voice ended up that way, or how that happened, how he lives his life. Maybe he should take an oath of silence and just never talk unless he's by himself. Because I can see why he gets laughed at. I feel bad for the guy. I would like to know more about him. There was some sympathetic backgrounds going all around, and I appreciated that. Doflamingo's backstory, though, I really did think they were going to show us this whole thing where Doflamingo was actually a good kid and he grew up in a shitty world. But no, he's a psycho. Doflamingo's a fucking psycho. His dad, a celestial dragon, decided he was going to take his family and his wife and go live in the suburbs, basically. I'm not going to live here with you, the quote-unquote gods of Majoria. I can't remember. Majoria. And they were like, you're crazy. You're going to go live with the humans? He's like, we're all human, man. I was like, we're all human, man. And these other celestial dragons were like, you're a heretic. Get out of here. We'll take you out of here. You can go be a human, but we're not humans. We're the gods of this world. And so he takes Doflamingo and Doflamingo's brother, Kyros, Kherson, and his wife. His wife ends up dying of a disease. The people that they end up living around end up beating the shit out of them, torturing Doflamingo, his brother, and his father. Doflamingo is treating these people like shit the whole time too. He's like, "Where's my slaves, Dad? Can we go buy some slaves? We need more slaves. I want this. I want stuff. I'm hungry. I've never been hungry before." He ends up resenting his father. His father's like, "I'm sorry you had to have me as a father." His dad even tries to get them back into the Moria, to get them back as celestial dragons. And they tell him no, he's been tainted now. They've all been tainted. They're traitors. They're never allowed back they can never be celestial dragons again. Doflamingo ends up killing his father. It was dark as shit. Super dark moment. Killing his dad and taking his head, taking his dead body basically to Moria and be like, "Let me back in." And they said no, straight to his face. So that's pretty wild. So Doflamingo basically had to become a pirate. He built a gang. He collected members of the Doflamingo family. One thing I really like about Doflamingo is how much he cares for his people. I appreciate that. The first time we saw Baby Five and Buffalo get their ass beat by Law at Punk Hazard and got their heads cut off, I thought that Doflamingo was going to kill them or just let them get taken by the Marines. But no, he took them back, and they're like two of his weakest members because he believes in them. He loves his crew members. He loves his family. Doflamingo built his crew. His brother, Kyros, ends up leaving for a little while because he's actually a good kid. He grew up in the same family. Like, he grew up as a celestial dragon, Doflamingo's brother, Kyros. And this guy ends up meeting Son Goku from the Marines. And this guy raises him basically for a few years. And he basically tells Son Goku, basically, "My brother's a psychopath, and I would like to go infiltrate his crew." And he pretends to be voiceless. He pretends he can't talk. And he's infiltrating Doflamingo's crew. Doflamingo cares about his brother more than anybody else, which I thought was really cool. I myself have a brother who I care about a lot. And so I understand that feel. So he cares about his brother. He doesn't know he's betrayed him to the world government, which is crazy because usually the Marines are the bad guys of this story, but in this part, they were mostly good guys. We actually get to see the origin of Virgo joining the Marines and pretending to be a Marine, pretending not to be a pirate. The beginnings of that, him getting hired basically by Sengoku, I believe. His rising of the ranks. Law ends up joining the Doflamingo family. When he shows up, and we find out that Law is from like a white city. I think it was called the white city or something crazy. This city that had this white lead, which they sold, and it made the city rich for many, many years. But then they found out this lead was poisonous, and for every generation that lives around this lead, their lifespans get shorter and shorter, and Law is like the fourth generation. So basically, the government knew the lead was poisonous, but let this keep happening because it was making them money. They knew this was going to become an issue down the line, 4 generations down the line or some shit. They knew that, but they allowed it to happen. They allowed these people to work in these mines of white lead. They allowed this shit to go down 4 generations ago. Law basically has a very short lifespan. He was going to die before he was a teenager. He escapes this shitty town that ends up being quarantined, and all the people were basically killed. It was very similar to Nico Robin's story, except it wasn't knowledge the government was getting rid of. It was just poisoned people that they allowed to happen, which was super dark. And Law ended up escaping by hiding in dead bodies, and he's slowly dying. He tells Doflamingo he wants revenge on the world, so he wants to kill as many people as possible. The whole time that he's joining the crew, he's getting his ass kicked by by Corazon, and he hates him. He ends up even stabbing Corazon. Law stabs Corazon, and he's like, "Ha! I stabbed him." But then Corazon, he's worried that Corazon's going to tell Doflamingo, and he doesn't tell Doflamingo. And I was like, "What? He got stabbed through like the shoulder," but he beats him up all the time. We later find out that Corazon isn't deaf. He isn't mute. He can talk. He actually has the power of the silent fruit, so people can't hear noises he makes. So he's the perfect spy, by the way. And he really likes Law. And he basically pulls Law aside when he finds out that Law is actually a D. And if you've made it this far with me, you should know what a D is. His real name is like Trafalgar D Law, or Trafalgar D Water Law. It's pretty crazy. I don't really understand the water part of the whole thing, but I'm sure it means something. This is One Piece, by the way. The water will come up again in this pirate adventure. I'm sure of that. But the big news is he's a D, and we also find out that there's like this myth in the Celestial Dragons from Coruscant, since he was a kid that grew up there, that they're afraid of people with D in their name because I'm assuming the Void Century has something to do with it. Are you following me here? I'm assuming the D's were the people who fought against the evil world government, the Celestial Dragons, back in the Dizay. And Law is a descendant of the D's, just like Luffy. And they're basically destined, in my opinion, to take down the world government. Even though Garp's a D and he's in the world government. They're keeping their enemies close, people. Or maybe down the line there's going to be some Marines fighting the world government that have the D in their name. Yes, it'd be kind of cool if we found out Aokiji had a D as well. But Law has the D. He has one arm now, so he's kind of in that one arm party with Shanks, but he's got the D. So Corazon basically tells Law, you can't tell people that you have the D. And he's like, why? He's like, it's a secret for a damn reason. You will be killed. Doflamingo won't like you because he's a celestial dragon by blood, and he might think that you're going to cause his downfall just because of the myths and whatnot. I could see, Doflamingo seems like a paranoid guy, so I could see him think that. Corazon ends up taking Law out of the family, and they leave a note, and they're like, we're going to heal Law's disease so he doesn't die in 3 years or something. 6 months they're gone trying to save Law. All the doctors are turning him away, and they're terrible doctors. Like, I don't want to be infected by the white disease. Eventually, Doflamingo gets a hold of them, and he's like, hey, we found the OP fruit, and it's basically Law's fruit, so he can be the surgeon of death, and that fruit can heal basically any disease. We also find out that this fruit is super rare and super important, and I guess it's got the ability to give somebody eternal life or immortality. Because if the user sacrifices their life in some weird way, they can give whoever they want immortality, which is insane and hella broken. So that is the reason I don't think Law's dead yet in the story, because of this, I have a theory that Law will someday give his life to somebody, and they'll be immortal. But Law will die. That's my theory. Law will die at some point, giving his life, maybe to bring, my assumption is probably Luffy would be brought back from dying or something, or he's like on the verge of death, and then he gives Luffy eternal life. And Luffy's been losing life using Gear 2 and the fight at Marineford. He's been wasting years of his life anyway, so maybe Law can extend Luffy's already shortened lifespan with a trade of his life, which should be cool. And that's my theory, because why would Oda put that in there? Why would Law use it on anybody but Luffy unless he's forced to use it on somebody else? So, Corazon and Law decide to steal the fruit before Doflamingo can. Corazon ends up getting shot multiple times, steals the fruit, brings it to Law, forces Law to eat it. Law doesn't know how to use it just yet, like I mentioned earlier, about devil fruit abilities taking time to learn. And plus, I don't know how much medical experience Law has. He probably learned a little bit from his father, because his father was a doctor, but not enough to fix this crazy disease right off the bat. And Law was already on death's door at this point when he ate the fruit. So he best learn how to fix himself quick. Like, they didn't show how he surgically removed this disease out of his blood cells. It seems like a molecular level disease. Like, how do you do that? I could see Law now doing it, but not the kid Law that probably just knew what a scalpel was and a couple little things. But he figured it out. He found a way to fix himself, I guess. But he ends up getting away because Corazon ends up sacrificing himself in basically a fight to the death with his brother. But it was just like they both had pistols pointing at each other. Corazon couldn't kill his own brother, even though he knew he was pure evil. Doflamingo's pure evil. I want to see Doflamingo's eyes, by the way. He's always wearing glasses, even when he was a kid. He kills his own brother, whom I'm assuming he was going to give him eternal life, since he wanted Corazon to eat the devil fruit, because he didn't know that Corazon had the silent fruit. So that was his plan originally. So that's crazy. That was a hella good backstory. I really, really liked it. Originally, I think my favorite backstory is still Robin's, because she's my favorite female character of all time. But Law's is my number 2. And it used to be, I think, Sanji's before that. So Law and Doflamingo's intertwined backstories are fantastic. And it was a really good read. I'm super stoked that we got to learn more about the Celestial Dragons. They really are just old white people, like old kings that think they're special. They're not aliens, they're not gods. But what's going on with this Will of D, man? Okay, one final thing that I need to discuss is Doflamingo, at some point during the fight with Law, reveals that he knows about a treasure or a weapon that they have at Majoria, where the Celestial Dragons have a secret that he knows. And that's the reason that he still has pull with them, even though they wouldn't let him back in, which is surprising. And now that I think about it, it's kind of weird that they just won't let him be a Celestial Dragon again. He probably doesn't want that anymore at this point. But the fact that they could have just let him back in and they could have kept this secret. But he knows a secret. And he's been using that over the heads of the Celestial Dragons to keep them out of his business. And so, what is the secret that the Celestial Dragons have? I hope we learn about it by the end of this arc. Maybe it's one of the ancient weapons. Maybe it's a crazy treasure. Maybe they have the One Piece. Wouldn't that be crazy if they have it? They've had it this whole time, and they're not going to tell anybody about it because they just don't want people to know it even exists, whatever it is. That'd be kind of crazy. Wow. I'm telling you, those 20 chapters were filled with information, but it flew by. And I am so excited to finish Dressrosa. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey just as much as I am. I have had people tell me in the comments how they didn't enjoy Dressrosa because of its length when they watched it in real time, week to week. But reading it in one straight shot, at one go, really, it feels great. It honestly intertwines just fine. I would give this arc so far an 8.5 out of 10. And for example, I would give Water 7 and Eni Slavi a 10 out of 10. So if that helps, I don't know. I think this is a damn good arc. It's really long, but really good. And maybe because I'm not waiting every week for a new chapter, I'm not pissed off about any little thing. I think my only issue so far is how overpowered Sugar was, and she's just a monster, and how overpowered Doflamingo is. But it's fine. He's the main villain. He's one of the main villains of the entire series. It's okay to have an OP villain every once in a while, so I'm okay with that. I'm Mr. Morfetto. This is Morfanime. What did you think? What did I forget? Please share, subscribe, and tell your friends about Morfanime. I am on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I'll talk to you later.